Hey guys, so did y'all see the new War of the Worlds movie that came out? It was trending a few weeks ago for being the worst movie ever made. And yeah, this movie is weird. Not just weird, but there's a lot of secret symbolism within the movie that I thought was interesting because, look, while it is a bad movie, I mean, it wasn't horrible, it was just the style that was weird. What's more significant is that most people are completely missing the secret messages in the movie and the overall symbolism of the original novel. Like, what is this movie even trying to say? Now, of course, most people would just assume, well, it's about an alien invasion. But is it really? This new 2025 version of the movie with Ice Cube is so on the nose that it makes it clear that the alien invasion is a front for the NWO. It's propaganda. And I don't think you have to be a conspiracy theorist to entertain that. I mean, it's literally what the story is about. An invasion by elite society to usher in their ideological vision for a technologically advanced utopian society, or as H.G. Wells put it, an end to nationalist individualism, the end of sovereign states. H.G. Wells also said that countless people will hate the NWO and will die protesting against it. We can talk more about him later, but let me break down the new movie real quick so you don't have to watch it. I mean, I enjoyed it because it was kind of different. I don't think it was very good, to be honest. Seems kind of rushed and the acting wasn't great either, but maybe that was on purpose to distract from the overall message of the film. The weird thing about it is the whole movie basically takes place from Ice Cube's computer. He is a DHS agent, so he works for the government, and the entire movie is essentially almost like a screen share of his computer along with shots from his webcam. The movie's just watching Ice Cube on the computer. Now that sounds weird, but I thought it was a unique style and it had me engaged, but unlike the good War of the Worlds movie with Tom Cruise, where the build-up is slower and far more engaging, this movie with Ice Cube has like this extremely fast pacing. Anyways, so Ice Cube plays William Radford, who works for Homeland Security, and the first thing we're shown is his desktop where he's logging into his computer. As he's logging in, there's a song going on that sings, "Introspection, doubtful thoughts they weaken men, while the tyrants manipulate and poison them." As he logs into the database that says freedom and security for all, his job looks like he just monitors a bunch of surveillance cameras in DC. It's much more than just that. It's showing you all the things he has access to, like cameras, phones, and even advanced facial recognition. They have access to everyone's most personal information. And at first, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it's like really creepy. So very quickly, one of the first things that comes up in the film is that Ice Cube spies on every aspect of his daughter's life. I mean, he has cameras in her house, her fridge. He can tap into any camera on the street or even a cafe, grocery store. And he does this constantly to monitor his daughter. But the movie kind of plays it out like he's being a good dad. He's just making sure his daughter's okay. But it is plain creepy when you think about it. I mean, what does this mean and what would it realistically imply? I mean, he literally has access to her phone, spying on her private messages, and even responding to her boyfriend's messages. I mean, that's beyond weird. He even knows what she is listening to on Spotify. However, I think the greater message here is that they're trying to show you right now what is possible in terms of government surveillance. And this is how the movie begins. So after showing you what Ice Cube, the government agent, does for a living, he gets a call from Sandra telling him about this weird phenomenon where there are these storms happening all over the world, which is also referenced in the older Tom Cruise movie. Well, after this, the movie discusses a character called the Disruptor. And this is kind of where the conspiracy vibes for the movie begin. Well, the FBI and apparently Homeland Security are monitoring some conspiracy theorist on YouTube, kind of like anonymous or something. And this Disruptor guy is some sort of whistleblower. The Disruptor releases a video on YouTube that talks about how he is going to be releasing classified documents proving the surveillance industrial complex is using their top secret Goliath program to collect our personal data to use it against us. Everywhere we go, everything we say, watch, read, and write is captured and evaluated to censor our awareness of the truth and to enslave us to tyrannical, authoritarian government control. This enslavement state has not revealed that the Goliath program is an existential threat to humanity that no one can possibly comprehend. That's literally what they say in the movie. Now obviously, I think most people notice the conspiratorial vibes here, but there's a lot going on while the YouTube message is being played, so this can easily go over people's heads, like, what are they even talking about here? Interestingly, they named this secret government program Goliath, a reference to David in the giant Goliath, which has its own parallels to real-world AI surveillance programs. So Homeland Security and the FBI get this disruptor guy's address and raid the place, and right when they think they're about to find the man or the whistleblower, explosions go off, and pretty much within 15 minutes, we have the alien invasion happening, or what at first is just seen as meteors impacting cities all over the world. The movie kind of alludes that there is a connection between the disruptor and all these meteor impacts. The movie then gets extremely chaotic, and we're shown within 1 minute or two several news stories and alerts for this drastic event. And this is one of the major issues I have with the movie, is that unlike the 2005 movie, where there is the suspense and a buildup of what is actually happening, well in this movie, it just kind of all happens at once. Now that's just from a cinematic viewpoint, but this actually highlights what we're trying to discuss here. This movie isn't really about an alien invasion. That's why they didn't spend too much time building it up like the Tom Cruise movie. It's actually about government programs, whistleblowing, data collection, and secret surveillance. The movie is presented as an alien invasion movie. I mean, think about it, it's called War of the Worlds, implying planets. But in the movie, we don't know where these aliens actually come from or if they really are aliens. Sandra goes to visit one of these meteor sites, and this is when we discover, oh, these aren't meteors. These are large machines that fell from the sky. They're called the fighting machines, but they're also called the tripods. At first, it's theorized that these machines might be from some other nation like China. But obviously these machines are extremely advanced and look like they come from another world. This part is extremely fast-paced, but essentially, the whole world is being destroyed by these terrifying machines, communication centers are being destroyed, and very quickly it becomes apparent that these machines are actually looking for something. Which is kind of a plot hole in the movie, because okay, so these machines are looking for the data centers. These supposed aliens, for some reason, want access to all of our government's data centers. Which stores what? Our personal data, obtained through secret surveillance or the secret program that was referenced earlier, Goliath. Again, at this point in the movie, we're about 30 minutes in, there is no mention of aliens. And it is implied that there's a direct correlation between the disruptor and these machines, as the event began while the raid was happening. Then William's daughter finally answers the phone, and then she gets hurt by one of these tripods, which is one of the major plot points of the movie, I guess, where William tries to save her through his computer as he's locked in his office because the whole DHS building is shut down now. So then he takes control of a random Tesla and drives it to her to bring her to safety, which I thought was a very strange detail to add, so DHS agents can just take control of random Teslas. Now the movie starts talking about how these meteors were intentionally set to crash into satellites, showing these meteors coming from space, which adds to the illusion that these are aliens. But again, it's still not mentioned that this is an alien invasion. So they're on a Zoom call with the president, there's no mention of aliens, we're just briefly shown the meteors falling from space. They figure out that the machines are going after the data centers, and then the president approves this plan to fight back as this is humanity's last chance, that there's no other option but to initiate this War of the Worlds to save us all. But think about it, that is very weird phrasing. Why is there no mention of aliens or invaders? Why use this phrasing of a war of the worlds? Which worlds are at war? You may think they just wanted to leave that open-ended, but I would argue they're doing this on purpose. It's a war of the elites versus humanity, aka the NWO. Okay, so now all of a sudden there's a full war going on. And I understand why, but this is just what's wrong with the movie. All of this just happens so fast, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, the president initiates war, and then all of a sudden we're shown all these clips of tanks fighting these machines, but what's the timeline here? Now, he does say, take your intergalactic asses back home, but that's the closest reference we get to these machines belonging to some type of alien civilization on another planet. Now, I should mention, his daughter's name is Faith, which seems meaningful, as when they're on the phone together and she's bleeding out, she basically tells Will that his issue is he thinks he has all this power, all this control, but that really, he's actually powerless. And in a way that symbolizes how he needs to have more faith and not try to control every aspect of other people's lives. It could have multiple levels of meaning, such as faith being tested, pushing through to survive such a catastrophic event, such as the introduction of a utopian society ruled by artificial intelligence, which would have no religion. Okay, and this whole time, Ice Cube also has a son in this movie who's been calling him repeatedly to try to tell him something, but because of the tripods and faith, William's been extremely busy and not really trying to listen to his son because he knows that his son is trying to share some conspiracy theory about the event. Well, after that talk with Faith, he gets a FaceTime call from his son Dave, where he finally gets to talk about this conspiracy theory. Dave tells William that the government's keeping secrets from him, that him, an agent for Homeland Security, literally someone who's apparently on Zoom calls with the president, is not aware of even deeper levels of secret projects within the government. So this is when the movie really gets on the nose with the conspiracy stuff. So it's kind of presented like, oh, Dave is crazy when he talks about this stuff. But I mean, this is real stuff. Dave's explaining that there's a surveillance network that is 1,000 times stronger than anything you could imagine. Will responds, you don't think I know about the government surveillance network? I am the government surveillance network. And when he says this, I mean, he's basically agreeing. He's like, I know how advanced this stuff gets and all the surveillance that already goes on. But Dave says, you don't know about this one. It's called Goliath, which Will then says, oh, that's fake news. Dave then says, think about it. What do you think these private space launch firms are doing? All these secret satellites they're launching, and that this data gets wirelessly transferred to some underground facility on the East Coast. So they're referencing dumbs in this movie too? Goliath collects everything on us, and they won't stop until they get it all. Now think about what this is referencing. So a secret government program called Goliath, which is essentially an AI surveillance system that uses secret satellites and perhaps other technologies to collect information on every aspect of our lives. And the movie is simplifying this, but that could have all sorts of implications. I mean, what are you doing with this data? You can say they just want it all, but realistically, they could be creating digital personalities, predictions, and overall, just to use it for control over society. These types of monitored societies are referenced in several dystopian stories, such as with Brave New World in 1984. But of course, Will's first response is to see this as fake news, but that's because he's been programmed to say that. From his job, the media he watches, and his overall perspective of the government in general. But his son is trying to break him away from all that, or literally wake him up to the idea that the government isn't really the good guy. They have secrets that they keep from all of us. And then they were talking about the private space launch firms thing when he's talking about these secret satellites, which to me seems like a direct reference to SpaceX and Musk. Which is interesting, if you tie this to similar government programs today that involve AI surveillance and how this all connects together. But unfortunately, William isn't ready to swallow that pill. and tells Dave to leave the conspiracy stuff at the door and that he has to go. The news is now revealing that these machines are heading directly towards secret government data centers, and William watches as they drain all the data in the servers. But it's not just that, they call it a cyber attack. Communication is down. The military can't communicate with each other. This data is being taken in real time, and it shows this happening where websites aren't working and photos from Facebook are being erased. But while this is happening, William then starts closing tabs and decides to listen to the disruptor stream. This hooded figure is saying this invasion is the result of the government collecting mass amounts of data, and notice all the text in the background. Apparently, the most important resource on Earth is data, and data is food for the superior intelligence that invaded Earth. The government knew this would happen, and they activated Goliath anyways. And in the movie, they added this new concept of these little insects that apparently consume data, like it's their food or something, and so the tripods release these little bugs into the data center so that they can get all the data they need. If these machines locate Goliath and consume its data, the world will return to the Stone Age, meaning a reset. And then notice how the disruptor says they won't stop until they have it all. And this line sounded familiar to Will, where he then manipulates the vocal, changing the pitch, and figures out that this is actually Dave, as he said something very similar earlier. But wait, earlier he said the secret government wanted it all. And now the disruptor, who is Dave, is saying the aliens won't stop until they have it all. Meaning that is a direct correlation between the tripods, or superior intelligence, and the government. They both obviously want this data, and they both won't stop until they have it all. The movie doesn't really make that connection apparent. So Will FaceTimes Dave and confronts him on being the disruptor. And we find out that Dave has actually been hacking the government through William, as he works for the government, and he has some hacking friends that helped him do this, where they uncovered secret documents on these government projects. Dave then sends him a bunch of these documents, and this is where Will finally wakes up, where the truth shall set you free. He opens up the zip file, and there's a shot in the movie which shows a directory with several folders that are named after these secret government projects. In the movie, it flies by extremely fast, but these are real subjects. Most of them involve UAPs. There is Project Blue Book, UAP data harvesting. Is that referencing that these UAPs are actually harvesting data? There is also a reference to Skinwalker Ranch and Mount Hayes, which is interesting because Mount Hayes is said to be a secret alien base. So how are all these things connected? This is when the movie does like a montage of William looking through all these secret documents. Now the first document that comes up is from 1948 that discusses the unusual atmospheric conditions that have been reported of violent weather and strange craft sightings at Manhattan Project facilities across the United States. But wait, that's a huge deal because this is not the only time that the War of the Worlds movies have been connected to the Manhattan Project. We'll come back to that. The next document says that the UFOs started appearing after the US data collection program was initiated. So how long has this whole Goliath program been going on? Obviously this is not a new concept of government surveillance and data collection, especially if they've been dealing with these UFOs for over a century. So that means the government knew about these tripods and they knew about the little bug things that eat data since the 1950s. And this is when the movie gets kind of creepy because no other version of the War of the Worlds story goes this in detail on the dystopian aspect of it. The next document is one on Goliath, and it comes from the DHS, the department that William works for. So he wasn't even aware of this. But the document is blacked out in certain areas, so we don't have all the text. But from what we can gather, this document is discussing the Goliath server and satellite system for mass data collection. The Goliath system is the world's answer to private data extraction and storage. Goliath can harvest and store up to 600 billion individual communications every 24 hours. So we don't know much more than that, but this is a normal surveillance system. I mean, this is collecting data on every aspect of our lives. So then Will figures out that his boss, the NSA director Briggs, is actually the one behind Goliath. But there's a lot of issues and plot holes with that whole concept. We can break that down towards the end. Now William realizes why the NSA and FBI wanted to catch the disruptor. It's because they didn't want this secret program getting out to the public. Then there's this weird audio file that he plays in the movie where a general is trying to tell Briggs, like, don't start the Goliath program, it's really bad. And Briggs says, well, I'm gonna do it anyways. I don't care if they invade us. Bring it on. So they knew the aliens were going to invade and started this program anyways? Why? They really thought they could take on this superior intelligence? Or is there something else going on? But during this audio, a secret's revealed that many may have missed. They give the reason why they want this data collection. And from what I can gather, I think this is the only point in the movie that they actually explain what the data collection is even for. Briggs explains, we now have the power to predict every person's thoughts and movements. It's total control. Let me explain that. So you know how people are like, oh, I don't care, you can have my data. Why would I care? Well, he's telling you, they want this data because they can then feed it into an extremely advanced AI system, far more advanced than anything we have, which the system can then accurately predict exactly what a person will think and do. Now that may seem far-fetched, but it's not as crazy as you may think, and there are already similar AI prediction models that do exactly this on advertisement data. But think about that on an even grander scale. A good example would be Minority Report, which connects to the movie through Tom Cruise. But imagine instead of psychics, it's actually an AI system just predicting the future. Now the movie plays it off as Briggs is acting alone on this whole Goliath being initiated thing, making him the villain. But that doesn't really make sense either. So William calls Briggs right away to be like, hey, I know about Goliath. Which is a really dumb plot point. Why would you do that? But another thing the movie does multiple times is this kind of underplaying of what this whole data collection stuff is about by saying, you risked all of our lives just to spy on people's Amazon carts. And they say this multiple times. And they're just trying to play it off as that's all they're really doing. But the truth is, they're already doing that. Goliath has nothing to do with people's shopping carts. It has everything to do with knowing exactly how people think and predicting what they will do. It's a system that creates a realistic digital twin. They don't break that down in the movie, but like I said, they keep equating it to spying on people's grocery orders, and I think they're doing that on purpose. And then there's an interesting analogy made here. Briggs responds, the government's like mommy and daddy. If we can't track our babies, how can we protect them? Which is contrasting how William spies on every aspect of his daughter's life, so it's basically the same thing. Then Will gets fired, and for some reason didn't see that coming, so now he's locked out of his computer and stuck in the building. But here comes his son to the rescue, the disruptor, as he's already hacked into the DHS through his dad, so he hacks the system again so that William can log back in. Now William joins the disruptor crew in the rebellion, and there's this kind of strange plot point, but they come up with this plan to infect the data. And mind you, they come up with this plan in less than an hour, and at the same time that this is all going on, William asks Dave for the disruptor YouTube account so that he can make his own video. And so he uploads the documents to YouTube, and somehow or another, it just makes a video. The movie doesn't explain that at all. But yeah, he has this video explaining Goliath and revealing him, William Radford, as a whistleblower. This is uploaded to the Disruptor YouTube and it goes viral. And I mentioned this before, like, I understand why they need to move at this pacing, but the issue is it really takes away from the immersiveness of the story. We have no sense of a timeline here. It's just not possible for all these news stories to react to the video being uploaded in less than a minute. Okay, now they try to hack the databases and upload this virus, but it doesn't really work out, and the tripods come for the disruptor crew, but Dave survives and they come up with a new plan. They figure out from Sandra that these machines are actually biological and have DNA. It's some type of biomechanical organism. So now they get Faith, the daughter, to somehow or another devise a biological virus that can be uploaded through a USB into the database under DHS. Apparently she was doing work on cannibal codes. It actually references this one time earlier in the movie with an article on how the cannibal code reprograms DNA to attack sick cells. But it doesn't say she invented this, and I'm not sure how she would reprogram that to kill some biomechanical organism that has never been studied, and then somehow put that on a flash drive. But yeah, she does this in less than 5 minutes, and you might say, well, maybe it's just sped up or something. No, she is literally still hurt in the building with her boyfriend. She is pregnant and bleeding out, and somehow or another did all this and put it on a flash drive. I mean, that's just bad writing. That's basically the end of the movie. After a shameless Amazon plug, and the USB is delivered to Will, he gets it to the database after a drawn-out sequence and saves the day. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the government was going to just bomb DC in order to completely get rid of the DHS headquarters to stop the machines from getting the data. Then yay, it's all over. The machines are dead, the world is saved, and the end shows all these news stories. Young scientist, a vaccine that killed an alien life form. So she developed a vaccine? How? How a virus technology defeated the aliens. And that's the only second time I believe aliens is mentioned. Then all these articles on the releasing of these Goliath documents that reveals the government spying on citizens. One thing that was really weird to me is that this movie references real companies and people, like New York Times, and it even shows Tucker's account, so did he have to approve this? Feels like that's not really a parody, and just to have a huge political figure in this movie like that is kind of bizarre. I mean, NASA makes sense, but they even had Joe Rogan make a post in here, like what? So the movie's over, and the final part is Williams being congratulated by the Secretary of Defense. He's an American hero, apparently. And the secretary says, I just got off the phone with the president. He wants you to pioneer a new data collecting protocol, one that doesn't invade people's personal privacy. William responds, yeah, that's not for me. There's more important things to do than to worry about what's in people's Amazon carts. There you go, the second time he says that, and there is a reason. You see, the movie ends with the secretary basically telling Will that the president wants to start the data collection program again, just to be careful about people's personal data. Right, like the government's gonna do that, which is the reason why William says no. I'm gonna start watching you guys, which is a weird thing to say to the Secretary of Defense. But the point is, did the president know Goliath was going on? They don't really explain that in the movie. Because think about it. So the ending is the DHS director, or NSA director, Briggs. They reference both departments throughout the movie, so I'm not sure, but he gets arrested, and he's like the bad guy. It was all his doing. But wait, that doesn't make any sense. This has been going on since the 50s. He didn't start the program, he was just the current director. The president, or some type of shadow government, had to be aware of this project. It had to be approved. This isn't some secret DHS project created by Briggs that was kept from the US government. And oh, some random DHS agent and his kids saved the day. That's surface level. First off, the government and the aliens are the same thing. That's not established in the film, but just follow me for a second. The government wants data, and they won't stop until they have it all. Same thing with the aliens. They want data, and they won't stop until they have it all. So the government knew super intelligent beings from outer space would crash land and destroy everything if they started this data collection program, yet they did it anyways. Does that make any sense? If these aliens are really after data, then why destroy everything? Like, what's the goal here? World domination? World destruction? You just want our data and then you're gonna destroy the world? Why? Wouldn't you want more data if you feed off of data? Why not just secretly take our data if these aliens are so advanced? And why do they need to crash land and they can build such advanced tripods? And honestly, I find it hard to believe that these devices would still work after an impact from space. Who's controlling them? Are they biomechanical? As that's implied in the movie that these are data insects. So are they going back to their planet or sending this data wirelessly? They crash land and they have no way back? What are they doing with this data? Are there aliens inside the tripods? Lots of questions, and you may think I'm overthinking it, but there is a reason for this line of questioning. It's to show that the aliens are actually a metaphor. They aren't real aliens. And this becomes clear in the original novel, but it is interesting to see how it's played out through its several adaptations. We don't get to see the aliens in the 2025 movie, other than the insects, but we don't get details on what is controlling the machines or who sent them. In the 2005 movie, and let's note that these movies are 20 years apart, both were released in the summer, one at the end of June and one at the end of July. I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but seems strange. But yeah, in that movie, they do show the aliens. And it's weird because they made them like tripod beings. Apparently these are Martians, as in the original novel, it is the Martians who are invading Earth. Going back and watching the 2005 one is crazy because it shows how much we've lost in the art of making movies. It's honestly shameful. The tripods without a doubt look the best here, and there are some interesting details. We have a reference to the surveillance aspect of these machines, with the metallic tentacle eye or whatever you want to call it. It's described as a cobra neck periscope or an electronic eye that can scan a room and look for life forms. This shows up in the 1953 movie as well. Not only is it an eye, but in the original novel, this is the heat ray as well. It's described in the book as a camera-like generator on an articulated arm that they are using as probes. Oh, and in the 2005 movie, they're collecting humans to use as a food source. But yeah, I love that movie. I don't care if people don't like the aliens. It's far superior. It's not even on the same scale as the 2025 movie. Literally, I'm not even kidding. I don't think the 2025 version should be even considered a movie. It's entertaining, but 2.5 out of 10 on IMDb is crazy. But are these really just movies anyways? You have to understand what we're talking about. A major popular novel that goes back to 1898. So that means we have to consider the potential propaganda elements within the story, or even the subtle symbolism and references hidden within. That's not a conspiracy. Literally, the original novel is supposed to be criticism of British colonialism. Which is like I was saying, the aliens are not actually aliens. They are a metaphor for something else. Now, many have argued that he's not actually talking about that. He's talking about a war of the worlds. What worlds? The old world versus the new world, the NWO. H.G. Wells wasn't just some random author. He was one of the greatest authors of the early 20th century. He was an elite. Literally, he belonged to the Fabian Society, the wolves in sheep's clothing. These Fabians, not metaphorically or philosophically, they literally wanted to usher in a NWO, and they weren't speaking in metaphors. They openly argued for a managed world. Many leading Fabians praised eugenics in scientific social planning, and Wells himself pushed versions of this in his political books. H.G. Wells literally wrote a book on it. It's a utopian society ran by the elites in which there are no sovereign nations and the creation of a world government. Now, I didn't say that. H.G. Wells did. A world government is the NWO. That's what we're talking about here. These stories are propaganda by these secret elite societies to program the masses for what they have planned out for us. And that's what these movie adaptations are actually referencing. It's not aliens. It's the government's plan for creating a collectivist society that is completely monitored and controlled. and their implementation of this plan through some type of false flag alien event. Interestingly, the Manhattan Project is tied to these films as well. As in the 1953 film, there's a line referencing Oak Ridge, and they try to A-bomb one of these machines, but the force field stops it. And that might not seem like much, as it was during the Cold War, but they referenced this in the 2025 movie, which, think about it, that was a secret government program to develop advanced tech specifically used for mass destruction. Which, interestingly, while Wells may have not mentioned nukes in the original novel, he does go on to write about them. H.G. Wells has another book that not too many people know about called The World Set Free. And in this book, he actually writes about atomic bombs. And mind you, this is 1914, so 30 years before the atomic bomb was even invented, supposedly. And what's even crazier, I'm not 100% on this, I could be wrong, but I believe Wells actually coined the term atomic bomb, meaning he is the one who came up with the phrasing. This is the first use of the term, and they're described as these continuous long-burning radiant explosives. So a little bit more sci-fi, but still, he uses that exact term. That's not all. The novel is called The World Set Free. What is it about? It's about how atomic energy and war would create a cataclysm that would lead to a world authority that would replace the chaos, aka NWO. It's about how separate sovereign states are no longer possible, and that freedom comes through catastrophe, these atomic weapons, and this is the last war before a world government is formed. It's called the World Council Republic of Mankind, and there is a push for universal schooling and a universal language. This council becomes the government of the world. Oh, you still think it's a conspiracy? Well, so did H.G. Wells. He called it the open conspiracy, meaning it's right in your face, and you still can't see it. What is the open conspiracy about? It's a blueprint for a world state run in the open, not a secret cabal. A world government that would abolish the nation states, centralize world control and power over force, resources, production, and even population drift, diffuse the people with a religious-like sense of duty. So it's not a conspiracy, it's an open conspiracy, and they've been discussing this in the open for over a century. Then, they start making these adaptations of these ideas into movies to simplify it into an entertaining experience for the masses, aka aliens invading Earth, but the core ideas stay the same. A catastrophic event that leads to a dystopian surveillance state. Which makes me certain that whoever was behind the 2025 film was fully aware of this. That's why it has all the weird conspiracy and government surveillance themes, which we do not see in any other adaptation. There is a reason, and it goes back to the original intention of the novel. It's a play on the elite's utopian goals for world domination, or as they put it, world peace. Oh, and let's not forget the whole Orson Welles fiasco. So if you don't know about this was the 1938 radio adaptation. It was a famous broadcast in the 30s that they say many listeners believed to be a real Martian invasion. They say it was mass hysteria. So wait, the story goes they were just reading the H.G. Wells novel on the radio, and somehow or another, everyone went crazy and believed it was a real alien invasion. I mean, we're talking a full-on panic. There were news bulletins saying aliens attacked Earth. It was exaggerated by the newspapers, but apparently it was presented in a realistic news format, whatever that's supposed to mean. And I mean, this guy is just gonna have the same last name as H.G. Wells but spelled differently, and no one questions it? Just a coincidence, right? And then you have George Orwell. Lots of Wells here. They say that as this was being broadcasted, CBS became aware of the public's reaction, and though there was some pressure to stop the production, it continued on in its planned conclusion. To me, this comes off as a psyop. This broadcast had more than 1 million Americans tuned in. And it's just like our news is today. I mean, radio wanted to keep the public in a constant state of fear. So they have this warp the world broadcast on the night before Halloween. This would be the perfect way to test the feasibility of their whole plan as H.G. Wells outlined in his writings. Let's play out a fake alien invasion in order to unite the world, and let's get the public's reaction to this. Like, imagine today if our main news source, right, so on the TV, CNN or Fox, they start telling people there's an alien invasion going on. They find out that people are reacting and freaking out, yet they continue to tell the story. I mean, that would be insane, yet that's exactly what happened in 1938. And what's crazy is Hitler actually mentioned it in one of his speeches. He mocked the United States' reaction to the Wells broadcast and used it as proof for the corrupt condition and decadent state of affairs in democracy. So what is he trying to say there? What does this have to do with corruption or democracy? They say the newspapers did the fake bulletins because they hated the radio companies and wanted to get back at them. Makes no sense. And by the way, Orson Welles was connected to the government. His grandfather was Secretary of the Navy under Lincoln. They say this is an urban legend, but it was promoted by Orson. Supposedly, Welles admitted that the whole War of the Worlds broadcast was a hidden agenda of showing how gullible Americans really were. Oh, and guess who funded the broadcast? It was funded indirectly by the Rockefeller Foundation through the Princeton Radio Project and guided at every stage by members of the Council of Foreign Relations. Listen to this. The Princeton University Radio Project, under supervision of psychologist Dr. P. F. Lazarsfeld, Frank Stanton, later head of CBS Radio and Television, and Dr. Hadley Cantrell, hired Orson Welles to adapt H.G. Wells' fiction book, The War of the Worlds, to the radio format in order to study the behavior of citizens under panic conditions. Not only was the panic created by a fictional Martian invasion the night before Halloween anticipated by its producers, the program was purposely crafted to create terror. This is essentially the very first electronic mass media event, and you could say PSYOP, which was heard by 6 million people. 1,700,000 of whom believed the broadcast to be a genuine, and 1,200,000 of whom were frightened enough to take action, either by running away or preparing to fight the invaders. Later, when the truth was revealed, Welles apologized repeatedly. The idea of using an interrupting news bulletin in the middle of what seemed like regular music programming was deemed excessively cruel, manipulative, and deceptive. So these people would be listening to music, and then bam, a news alert would come on saying that these aliens were invading. But that's not mass hysteria. It sounded convincing, and they wanted it to sound that way on purpose. It was an experiment. Cantrell later wrote a paper entitled The Invasion from Mars, a study in the psychology of panic. Cantrell's study examined the power of the radio broadcast media and its effect upon a population under the direct influence of fear. So this stuff goes deep. 2 years later after the broadcast, Cantrell received more Rockefeller money to establish the Office of Public Opinion Research at Princeton. And one of the study projects there involved analyzing the effectiveness of propaganda produced by the OSS, the forerunner of the CIA. Meaning the stuff is propaganda, guys. That's what it was originally designed to be. It's not a conspiracy. It's just been over 100 years since its inception, and these sci-fi ideas have been adapted so many times and essentially normalized to the point where we have become numb to their true meaning. Whereas if I was trying to explain this to someone who doesn't know anything about this stuff, they would think I'm crazy. But the truth is, Wells literally tells you it's an open conspiracy. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie. Let me know what you guys think, and if there's anything I missed. Is it really just a story? Or is it some type of propaganda? If you enjoy the movie breakdowns, please let me know what movie you'd like to see next, especially any new ones that are coming out that might have secret references. Thanks for watching, and if you could tell a friend about us, that would be cool. And all we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?